February 5th, 2018 to order. And if you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Changed it all.
Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Shippers,
Here.
Spolman. Here. Ingalls.
Here.
King.
Here.
Mayor Folkins.
Here. And at this time, if we could have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I would move that the agenda as presented be adopted.
Support.
Councilmember Spolman.
Yes.
Ingalls.
Yes.
King.
Yes.
Shippers.
Yes.
Mayor Folkins.
Yes. Motion carries. This time, we'll open the floor for public comment. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment and move to the approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support?
Councilmember Ingalls.
Yes.
King.
Yes.
Shippers.
Yes.
Spolman.
Yes.
Mayor Folkins.
Yes, motion carries.
Being recommended to approve the appointment of David Bunce to the Planning Commission for a 3-year term to expire on February 6, 2021.
Mayor Filkins, I would ask to be recused from this. Is this the time to ask that?
Sure.
Since I know that guy pretty well.
Okay. Would someone like to make the motion to allow her to be recused?
I think it should be in the minutes because it's her husband.
I'll move that Councilmember Shippers' request be approved.
Thank you.
Support.
Councilmember King.
Yes.
Spolman.
Yes.
Ingalls.
Yes.
Mayor Folkins.
Yes, motion carries. And that takes us back to the motion to appoint David Bunce.
And this was the only application that we had for it. Is that correct?
So related to this, normally we get those applications in our packet with all the information about them, and I didn't see that.
Do we have a copy of it?
I didn't get a copy of it.
He
We can
turned it
still
in.
send one out.
Okay.
Good question.
I'll make a motion to appoint David Bunce to the Planning Commission for a 3-year term to expire on February 6, 2021.
Support.
Councilmember Spolman.
Yes.
Ingalls.
Yes.
King.
Yes.
Mayor Folkins.
Yes, motion carries. And that takes us to the city manager's report for this evening.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. We have a rather brief agenda this evening. One item under the City Manager's report. I just wanted to give everybody and really the public a quick update regarding the Household Hazardous Waste Collection Day. I know that this is a topic of interest, that some folks have been curious when we're going to do another one. It's been several years since we've done one. In the past, there was some outside funding that was in place in addition to a collaborative effort between the county and the city where it was offered countywide. The county has expressed some interest in following to see the results of the city's request for proposals for doing this program. We are looking at doing one possibly as early as this spring. Ultimately, it's going to depend really on how the proposals come in and when the successful bidder is able to schedule the event. So while we're shooting for a spring date, it may, for instance, may not happen until the summer. We are in communication with the county on this. Should the county wish to participate, that'd be great. And it would simply be open to everybody in the county. Should they not be able to participate for one reason or another, that's okay too. Everybody that's on the city's sanitary system will be able to participate, including those folks that are part of the Lake Mitchell Sewer Authority, because they're also customers of the sanitary system. And we'll develop a mechanism where folks that are within the county but not within or not a customer of the sanitary or utility system to be able to participate, perhaps by acquiring some kind of voucher or coupon that will sell. So one way or another, we'll make sure that we can allow for as many people to participate that would like to. And just giving you guys the update.
All right, thank you.
I appreciate you working on this. Has any thought gone into, if we don't get funding from the county, to maybe at least do some of the surrounding townships that are the most heavily populated?
We have not reached out to the surrounding townships to see if they want to collaborate within this system. We, like I said, in the past, have only worked with the county. I know that some of the townships in the county do their own HHW collection day. We can explore those options if and when we have to. But if the county participates, then anybody within the county can can also be a part
Right.
of it. So
Yeah, that would be ideal.
Yep.
But I know they've not found it important to fund in the recent past, so hopefully they'll have a change of heart on that. I know people have been contacting their commissioners and asking for support in this area.
And I think that the county right now really doesn't have much data to go on, other than data that's several years old. And so, the proposals out there currently, we'll see what the numbers look like when they come back in. And the numbers are going to be based on, sort of an estimated tonnage collected. And we certainly have the history from what it was like in the past when it was open countywide. So.
Okay. Thank you. And the next thing on the agenda is the introduction of ordinances, and I think tonight we just have an ordinance.
Yes, tonight we have two items. They're under different sections. The first one is.
Oh, we do have them.
That's okay. The first one is a request to set a public hearing. The request is to set a public hearing to make amendments to Chapters 8 and 18 of the Cadillac City Code. Those sections of our city code pertain to the property maintenance and fire codes. Anthony Wolf, our fire marshal, who is here this evening, will also be here a couple of weeks from now when we have the public hearing, and we'll provide a little slideshow that illustrates what some of these changes are. But to set the foundation for what we're looking at doing, there's essentially 5 key points that are in the packet in the write-up, and I'm going to just go through them briefly this evening. 3 of the points or the amendments are under the International Property Maintenance Code. And just to quickly go back, what we're looking at doing is updating our codes to reflect the latest versions that the state has adopted. And so that would be moving from the 2012 edition to the 2015 editions. And so that's the very first bullet, which is the recommendation that the city code be updated to reference the 2015 International Property Maintenance Code instead of the 2012 edition. The second bullet point is with respect to some collaborative effort between the fire and police departments and looking at various code enforcement redundancies that we have. There's no need for us to mention in several different locations within our code the same thing. And so part of this effort is to pull out stuff that is already going to be covered in the code update, specifically areas regarding noxious weeds, junk and abandoned vehicle codes were noticed as being redundant. Therefore, as a part of this process, our recommendation is going to be to remove those duplicative references in our code. The third section under the International Property Maintenance Code area is regarding updating language for condemned housing and carbon monoxide detection. And then moving into the International Fire Code, there are 2 areas that we're looking at amending. Again, the first one is simply to update it to reference the 2015 edition instead of the currently referenced 2012 edition. And then the second step is to amend the code to include a no-fee or a zero-fee registration program for contractors that deal with fire protection systems. Those are the contractors that'll be installing your fire sprinklers, doing your fire extinguishers, and other related fire service protection apparatuses. The fire department feels strongly that by being able to have them register with the city, that provides them with the opportunity to give information to these contractors about the codes that we have, basically opens up the dialogue so that when they're going through projects, we can all be on the same page and hopefully avoid any type of violations or things down the road. And again, it's a zero-fee program. We're not looking at trying to collect any kind of revenue or a charge for that program. And then the only other thing I mentioned in the communication was that as what we did previously when we amended these codes, we reached out to the Rental Housing Association. The Rental Housing Association is not perhaps widely known unless you're in the rental housing community, but we reached out. The head of that association did appear at a little sort of open house that we had a week ago. There was no major issues that came about that meeting. Certainly, we might hear some feedback at the public hearing that might give us pause to change or to amend any of what we've presented in draft form. But at this point, there hasn't been any major issues that have come up. So, and again, the purpose for tonight is to set the public hearing for your next meeting. And then our fire marshal will provide a slideshow that help illustrate these changes for the public and for the council alike.
All right. Does anybody have any questions?
I did notice in the materials and that Anthony had a program he posted on the website for people that were interested in the changes, which I think is good to get the communication out. My only thought was, are there other spots we can put out through social media or otherwise so those programs are known? Because I think there are contractors and people that benefit from coming in and seeing your program that may not necessarily see the city website.
That's a good idea. You can use Facebook. That's what we use.
Okay. Then, if there's nothing else, we need a motion to adopt the resolution to introduce the ordinance.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution to introduce the ordinance amending chapters 8 and 18 of the City of Cadillac Code and set a public hearing for February 19th.
Support.
Councilmember Spelman.
Yes.
Ingalls.
Yes.
King.
Yes.
Shippers.
Yes.
Mayor Folkins.
Yes, motion carries.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. The next item is a request to adopt a resolution supporting the Water Asset Management Plan under adoption of ordinances and resolutions. The Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, or as we call it, the DEQ, is requiring that we have a resolution in support of the asset management plan in place. The asset management plan was submitted by the January 1 deadline, and this was a plan that was put together by Prine and Newhoff after we competitively awarded the bid to them. This is sort of a necessary step in finalizing the report. The report was rather voluminous. We do have it available to the public should anyone ask for one. And I did send it out separate to this packet just because of its thickness. So if anyone needs a hard copy, let me know. I can print one out. Otherwise, it was sent out just via email last week.
Oh, so we're not going to get the executive version? I thought we were going to get a little presentation of it today. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. We did not prepare one. We simply provided the whole report in its entirety.
It was
To you.
57
So-
pages of exciting reading, actually.
The maps were pretty informative too. The map breakdown was really nice.
Okay.
Well, are there any recommendations in it?
I don't have the whole report with me. If we're not comfortable in making the recommendation to support it, we can post it, or excuse me, we can postpone it until the next meeting, and I can have Friday Newhoff give you a full summary. But there are certainly, there were recommendations, but I don't want to get into the details tonight because I don't have the report in front of me, so.
The report did it. It was really nice, Councilmember Swolben, in the sense that it broke down what the goals of it were, then what each of the targets were, how they were going to deal with the targets, figuring out what were critical areas, deadlines for when those critical areas would be determined by, and then a plan that would be updated after that as to what action the city would take with its assets.
Documents that were attached. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I apologize. I didn't think to have.
I saw the weekend bolts, but I didn't open all the documents that were attached.
Yeah, that was the biggest one, I think.
So are you comfortable moving forward on this, or would you like to?
Yeah, but I would like to visit it sometime. I mean, because it's such an important topic for us.
We can schedule a time to have the engineer come and
Talk
give
about the
give an
recommendations?
give an executive summary of the report. That's not a problem at all.
I'd like that too. I know there's people that are concerned about this that have contacted me, and
Yeah,
That'd be
especially
great.
with the situation in Flint, people wonder basic questions like, do we have lead pipes? And that was all, laid out pretty nicely. in
Yeah,
the
and that
report,
actually is
so-
in the report, so that's good, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe we should do that.
Mhm.
Yeah, happy to schedule it, have
Right,
some.
that'd be great.
Thank you.
Well, let's put this off then until we hear that.
Is there a deadline to approve this for anything pending or for any funding or any type of,
No, but it is it says that this is a final procedural step, so it is a requirement per the state guidelines that we have a resolution of support that
Right.
go along with the plan.
okay,
so.
but we're not up against a deadline or experience?
I don't believe so, but I know that there's nothing that we have within our authority to necessarily change in the plan, because it was,
The plan's already been submitted
right.
without the
The plan's
resolution,
been
so
submitted.
And then you do the,
my
resolution.
recommendation is to hear what the plan is in brief and then approve the resolution.
Okay, I think that's a good idea.
Okay, so then we'll just table this then.
Yep.
Good, thank you.
You see this as a start?
Okay, this evening then in our packet, we do have the minutes from the Downtown Development Authority that we can review. And then we'll open for the second public comment.
So, yeah, so the Downtown Development Authority too, I know they were talking in there about wayfinding, which I thought was pretty interesting. I think as we're investing into our downtown and making this a spot, I've heard stories of the people that couldn't find where our park is as they go up and down Mitchell, and just for a small portion, I think we missed a step with missing some of the wayfinding. I think this is a good time to do that, and I know the DDA was discussing that, so that was good.
Yeah,
The
that
other
was
thing
interesting.
that I noticed that they were talking about is Mitchell Street.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's been something that I wanted to talk about for a long time, so I'm glad it's being talked about.
Yep.
Trying to figure out a way to slow the traffic down or reroute it, or both,
Mhm.
is, I think, very important. And I'd like to be involved in furthering that conversation.
Okay, good. Okay, I opened it for public comment, but I didn't see anyone, so we'll close public comment and move to good of the order.
Couple of quick remarks, just some rather general or generic development-related updates. Wanted to make sure that not just the city council, but the public as a whole doesn't think that we've forgotten about the Mitchell-Bentley site. That site is always something that's sort of in the forefront of our dialogue that we're having with certain community stakeholders, especially those folks that are a part of our industrial fund. That dialogue is continuing. We're also working with the State of Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, trying to determine how best to secure funding to help get that site cleaned up. It appears that there are going to be some grant dollars available, but it also appears that we still need to capture a development or new development or redevelopment hook in order to access those dollars. There are several different concepts that are being talked about, and I don't have anything really in more detail that I can brief the council tonight on. But I'm certainly optimistic that this is something that we're going to be able to make a meaningful improvement on this year. It's just a matter of timing and getting sort of all these ducks in a row. It's a rather complex situation. On top of that update, and working with the DEQ, the Brownfield Authority is going to be back in business as well. They're going to be meeting at the end of, I believe at the end of February, taking up various courses of action, possibly looking at some additional brownfield work for the Mitchell Bentley site that I just referenced. Also looking at perhaps putting in a brownfield plan or getting an update on a brownfield plan for the downtown redevelopment areas that we've been hearing about, talked about publicly, the newspaper, the Olson Block redevelopment site specifically. There's already a brownfield plan that's in place around the Cobbs and Mitchell building, and we've already begun the steps in creating a brownfield around that whole area. So the Cobbs and Mitchell building and the entire block just to the north. So there's a lot of activity happening. It's just not happening in a very public way because it's in the planning process, but it's starting to come together, and I expect it to be a pretty busy spring. So.
Thank you.
Can we get an update on the market project?
Yes. In fact, if you wouldn't mind, skip me. I gotta pull it up just to refer to some of the notes. I just got an update myself last week. So maybe continue going around for just
And then you'll find it?
just a minute. Yep, and I'll find it.
Thanks. Did you have something?
No, that's
Give me a
basically that. I would
Back
like
to you, Marcus.
Thanks.
And I guess I'll throw this out there too, as we're taking, I know we have to renew our, or bid out our solid waste contract this coming year, and I wondered if we're looking at our recycling contract also, or if that's not on the same cycle.
Okay, found the information. To answer your question about refuse, we have an option that's going to be coming in front of us regarding that contract. There is the opportunity to extend the contract. The refuse company is looking at making some amendments and is looking at exercising that extension. We don't need to necessarily agree to that. We can put it back out to the public and forego the opportunity to extend. And that's something that I figured we would probably pick up as a part of one of our upcoming workshop work sessions later this month and next month, just to decide which path we want to take. It ends, I want to say, in June, July, so we have time to decide whether or not we want to try to negotiate and then present an updated, amended version for the board to look at, or if we want to send it out back as an RFP. If the current contractor isn't the successful bidder, having this period of time before us is a good thing, because it's certainly going to be a logistical challenge. Pull all the carts out, get a new vendor in and whatnot. The recycling piece, completely separate provider, separate vendor than the residential refuse piece. Timing is of the same. We have no indication at this point that the recycler has any desire not to continue to be our recycler, but I don't have any additional data right now to share as to whether or not
Does that
we're looking at
contract
extending.
expire at the same time?
The timing is the same, but I don't know offhand if it expires or if there's an opportunity for an additional
Okay.
term, which there might be if it was written
I thought
similarly.
we might want to look
to
at both of them together.
Right.
It does.
There is an option to extend the recycling, just like there is the garbage.
Thank you, Jeff. Regarding the farmers market, there are some materials that are on site. They've been on site now for about 2 weeks, give or take. The largest component to the market, the actual roof structure itself, is here as well. It's in town. It's getting painted over at Cadillac Fabrication. So it's not going to be out until it's done being painted and basically ready to be installed. And so, according to the note here, it says everything is planning to be done and at the site by the end of March. Now, I hate throwing out specifics like that, even though I just did it, because who knows, right? I mean, if the
Right.
weather's really bad, if there's an issue with painting and they have to repaint areas or whatnot, it's going to delay it. As I've said before publicly, I still believe that the project itself likely isn't going to be done until summer, but they're going to be hitting the ground running as fast as they can to get it up. So, I know that this is a sort of strange project because you don't really see it happening on the site, but because of the type of structure we bought and how we got it fabricated, it's going to sort of be like plug and play. It's going to come and all of a sudden there's going to be a roof. It's going to, the structure's going to be there. So it comes in a big piece.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
I just have one thing that I want to ask folks. That I live over by Diggins Hill, and I've been hearing a lot of snowmobiles since the snow came back up around Diggins and on the street and in the alleys, and it really tears up streets to ride your snowmobile on city streets, even if there is snow on them, and then to go up Diggins Hill when there are children sledding is just really irresponsible. So please, use your snowmobiles where they're intended to be used, and don't put our roads and our kids in danger by riding them in places that does that.
And I think it's illegal.
Yes, it is
You're supposed to
illegal.
be riding in the city.
Sometimes I get annoying when I call 911. It's me again, I say.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
Great.
Thank you.
Remember, we're starting early. I'll send a reminder.